My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and this is Destroyer40. And tonight our special guest is Gilby Clarke drummer Troy Patrick Farrell. How are you doing tonight, Troy?
Jason, what's happening, bro? Nice to talk to you again.
Yes, it's so great to talk to you now. You're quite a busy guy these days. I understand that you're living in Las Vegas. What's that been like for you?
I got to tell you, I love Las Vegas. It's been calling my name for at least 10 years now, and finally made the move about 2 years ago this summer, and I love it. I don't miss LA. I miss my friends, but
yeah.
When I drive back over the horizon and you can see, the casinos and the Strip, I'm like, all right, I'm home. I feel home, and it's not even about the Strip and the lights and the the strippers. It's I gotta tell you, it's like a small town out here, and I come from a small town in Indiana, so this feels like a West Coast version, like a version of LA, but not so big.
Yeah.
Kind of a small town, big city vibe. It's got a little bit of both, and I love it, man. I'm adapting quite well here.
Well, I understand Las Vegas has become known as a music city. I mean, a lot of the LA musicians have moved up there.
It's kind of a West Coast Nashville. Because a lot of the guys, like the Cinderella guys, a lot of them live in Nashville now. The guys that work from the East Coast have, relocated to Nashville, and a lot of guys from the West Coast have left, LA, and they reside here in Las Vegas now. So it's kind of we're all trying to mature a little bit. I don't know if moving to Vegas is the right way to mature, but it's a little bit of a smaller town vibe, and you kind of get. I know most people think about the Strip and gambling and all that stuff, but it really isn't about that. You live in a town like Henderson or Green Valley Ranch or Summerlin, and you feel like you're in the Midwest, kind of. Nice small community. So
and like you're saying, over the last couple of years, I understand like several musicians have moved up there. So I'm sure, speaking of friends, you're always running into musician buddies that you know. Now getting into Destroyer40, which is what we're here to discuss. I know you're quite the Kiss fan. I was wondering if you could share with us, Troy, how you first became a Kiss fan.
Well, I got to tell you, when Kiss first came out. Obviously, I was aware of them because they, the makeup and the presentation, and they were gigantic. I didn't know, I couldn't wrap my arms around it of what it was, and my friends in school before I started playing music, they were huge Kiss fans. And Aaron in high school was a huge Gene Simmons fan. He was a bass player, and he really introduced me to Kiss. And in my first kind of unofficial concert, after I started playing, like right around 11, 12 years old, I was a kid with the insulated garage. my brother, who's been playing since he was 12, in fact, actually out in clubs and everything, he had a band that was kind of based down the street, and they had equipment, they had lights and everything. So I built the drum riser in my garage.
Oh, wow.
We had lights, we had everything. And we would have friends come over from school, and we learned a bunch of Kiss songs. And some of the first songs I actually learned to play were Kiss songs because all my friends were so into Kiss. And I didn't realize how into Kiss I was until I started actually learning how to play all those songs, So I have since seen them. There's two bands that I saw the most growing up, and Kiss was one of them. I saw Kiss 6 times, and I saw Motley Crue, I think, 4 times, So those are the two bands I grew up on, and thinking about the anniversary of Destroyer, I was like, God, man, I was a big Kiss fan as a kid, and that kind of says a lot. Because, everybody wants to be Kiss when you're a kid. I mean, there's kids that aren't even into music that want to dress up like Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. So that really tells you the magnitude of that brand.
Well, I mean, especially when you're a kid, and like you said, first time you've seen a picture. I mean, a lot of people have that story. First time they've seen a picture of Kiss, they had no idea it was even a rock band. They thought, oh, it's they're comic heroes or they're super.
Yeah, they're superheroes. Yeah, absolutely.
And then when you find out, oh, they make music, how cool is that? And now I got to ask you, growing up, I'm assuming. You must have, like a lot of people, dressed up like them, for Halloween or just to see what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think back in the day, I was, Peter Criss, of course, and I actually got to put on the makeup again a few years ago. We did there's a band called Kiss My Ass, and it's sort of a loose tribute to Kiss.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't get together very often, but it's got Scotty Griffin, who was out with Ellie Guns, and most recently with Bobby Blotter's band, and this other guy, Keith Robert, and then another friend of mine, Danny, who he looks exactly like Paul Stanley.
Oh, wow.
Things like him, and he loves, so anyway, we did a little show in LA, and at Kiss My Ass, I had to learn all these songs that I had not, a lot of them I've never played, and my only regret is not actually trying to pull off that, but I gotta tell you, I made a pretty good looking Peter Chris. It looked good. It was good to see that makeup back on. I had not done it since I was a kid. So.
Well, and did you get the opportunity to get up there and have your little moment with Beth?
No, I wish, but no, I didn't do it. I didn't have the balls to do it, and I regret it now. If I would have had a couple, shots of whiskey, I could have gotten the voice in the right rap. And possibly done it. They were trying to get me to do it, but I don't think I was ready to do that yet. But one day I'm going to make that up.
And I got to ask it, was that like a one-time gig? Because I had heard about the band that Scotty Griffin put together, I guess, which is what you're talking about. Was that like a one-time gig, or do you guys still gig from time to time?
They've done it. It's only been done a couple of times, and it was with another drummer. And he wasn't able to do that. And they're like, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, man, I'd love to. And so I had to cram all these, these Kiss songs. And, it's just kind of funny that the one song, in fact, this was Kiss's highest charted.
Yeah.
Charted at number 7. And it actually gave that album fuel back later in that year when it was starting to die and dip into the, top 200. That song, brought it back, and that's what made that album go platinum, in my opinion, So, but it's funny that it was sung by the drummer. It was their highest charted song as a single, and there's no drums on it at all. And it's not even a heavy song. So it really is the complete opposite of really what, you look at that album cover, where they're just on top of the rubble and just coming out of the earth almost, like superheroes. And the best-selling single they've had basically in their career was a song sung by the drummer, total ballad.
Oh yeah.
Drums on it. I mean, it really is quite an irony, but that tells you how well-rounded that band is. For them to be so huge in, just for their appearance and their songs and their, just Kiss as a brand, as a monster. And then they have this like huge ballad, that really has stuck, as a top achievement in their career. It really is kind of funny. It's kind of ironic that that's probably one of their biggest selling songs.
And the funny thing about that is, up until that point, I don't think Kiss had ever done a ballad before, and I've heard several stories over the years where Gene and Paul really were against even putting Beth on the album. The only reason it made it was their manager Bill Coyne and Ezrin really wanted it on the album, and supposedly that's a tune that Peter wrote years before he was even in Kiss with this guy Stan Pindridge, and he brought it into the band, and they didn't want to do it, but Ezrin kind of worked his magic, and he's even credited as a songwriter on it, and so that's how, and the guys so much were against it. When Peter was in the booth, I was reading something online where Gene and Paul were laughing. They're just like, oh man, this, Kiss doesn't do ballads, and they, so much of a point, they had to kick them out of the studio so Peter could, get his vocal down. But and it's kind of funny, like you said, that's the biggest hit the band has ever had. And a little trivia here for you, Troy. I don't know if you know, but that was also, Destroyer was actually the first album that Kiss had used outside musicians, and that's when Ace, I guess, was heavily drinking, and he wasn't showing up some of the sessions, so they brought in this guy, Dick Wagner, he was a guitar player from Alice Cooper's band, to play the guitar solo on Beth. That's not Ace, that's this guy, Dick Wagner from Alice Cooper band.
Wow, I didn't know that. So basically, outside of Peter Chris, none of those guys had anything to do with that song. Hey, listen, Peter Chris could take that one to his grave and with a little bit of honor and respect. And God bless him for that.
Yeah, that's his kind of claim to fame. He's always, that's the first thing he brings up any time anybody interviews him. He's like, Kiss's biggest hit was a song I wrote, a song I sang. And it's interesting, if you read Paul Stanley's book, he kind of touches on that, but he's like, yeah, well, anytime Peter Criss has had a song on a Kiss album, it's either something that was written for him, or if it was he co-wrote with somebody else. But Beth did what it did because Bob Ezrin came in and did his magic. But so I guess they're trying to take that away from a guy. But I really think, talking about Destroyer, I think Bob Ezrin was really the secret ingredient there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't take away the credit and the magic of those guys keeping those other guys together. Because really, that's what that's about. It's not even producing or songwriting or engineering or whatever. It's sometimes just making sure that everybody shows up and you guide them. They all know how to play. They know the songs, but you guide them down the right path to make sure that album gets done. And, you have to give them as much credit as the musicians that wrote the songs, because, I got to tell you, some of these studio sessions, that have been highly successful may not have ever happened if it wasn't for an Ezrin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't take away the credit of not only, the production and where he helped, in the songwriting, but really just for the fact of the matter that he got that done, and now 40 years later, we can still go back and listen to it and go back into the time machine and go, wow, I'm like 12 again right now. It's awesome.
Yeah, and the thing with that to me is like, if you go back all the way to 1973, okay, like any band, okay, Kiss had a cool look with the makeup and everything, but there was really no talent, and the band didn't really have any songs. We wouldn't still be talking about them 40 years down the line. And the thing to me, Destroyer is a great example of this. They really stepped up the songwriting on that album. And like you said, they did bring in outside people and start listening to what other people were telling them. And they brought in Bob Ezrin, and he's listed as a songwriter on every track. But the one thing about Destroyer, I think, with songwriting, they really stepped up a notch.
Are you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I was just saying, on Destroyer, I thought that what really made that a great album is the fact that the songwriting was so strong on it.
No, absolutely. There's some, you can go down the list. There's Out of the Gate, Detroit Rock City. You know what I mean? That song alone just sets the pace for that album. King of the Nighttime World, God of Thunder. Those are three home runs right out of the gate, and you can't deny those. And then, that album has its share of singles. It starts dying. Listen, they went gold, just about a month after release. And then then that was about it. That album was pretty much tapped out. It probably would have eventually gone platinum, after some time, because, new albums are released, people start discovering the band, and then they go back and go, oh my God, I gotta go through the back catalog. But, Beth just reignited that flame a little bit, which is just, like we were saying, just so ironic. But that's a killer album. That really is a pinnacle album. It's definitely in like top three. Obviously Alive.
Yeah.
Now, and then I'll say The Elder, just to mess with everybody.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, like, if you look at the first three Kiss studio albums, they were a lot more raw. But while the band was really, they were really doing good business on the road, people weren't really buying the first three records. And then so once they put out Alive, that just took it to the next level. And then once they came off the road for that, I understand, they're like, okay, on the next album we gotta really do something to match what we did with Alive. And I guess that's kind of what they did with Destroyer, but they really did take it to the next level. Now, I've heard from a lot of Kiss fans that, when Destroyer first came out, there was kind of a backlash, because to a lot of Kiss fans, it wasn't so raw as what they'd done before. It's kind of a little too polished. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I still think that the identity was there.
Yeah.
For sure. Those songs kick ass. You can't take away, I didn't polish for back then.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I'd almost have to go back to, the first couple albums and hear those again to kind of really compare. I don't know that I was, that much into Kiss like my friends were.
Yeah.
Noticed that progression. But I noticed that for me, as definitely, I was more than a casual fan. Absolutely. That's the band that I've seen the most in my lifetime. So I'm definitely more than just your average fan or that knows. So I know Shout It Out Loud and Rock and Roll Night, you know. But anyway, I think that they sort of matured, or Ezrin or their team of people behind them said, listen, we're lucky we're 3 albums in. 4th album, could be a deal breaker for them if they just stayed in the same mode. And I think that album just really kind of allowed them to. I mean, listen, how many years are they around now? You know what I mean?
40 years, like I said, this one album is 40 years old. About a week ago, and that's how I got the idea to do it. So I was reading stuff online. I thought, oh, this would be cool to talk to people about. But that's the point, Troy. I mean, out of all the Kiss albums, the bulk of the set list. A lot of the songs, come from this one album. A lot of these songs are still being played on the radio. And people are just into them just as much as when they were, initially released back in 1976. So that really, says something.
Yeah, and I think that album put them into a different gear. Okay, we're sticking around. And I think they had to get out of the, maybe the punk rock aspect of their approach of being raw and gritty, which was awesome and great at the time, and they just took it to a new level now and said, all right, do we want longevity, or are we just gonna, fade away with, it's great to have diehard fans, but usually they're few and far between, they're there forever, but at the end of the day, you want to entertain as many people as possible, and I think by moving in this direction, and by Ezra having the foresight to go, no, we're put this Beth needs to be on there, that changed the game for them. It really did, and said, all right, these guys are going to be legendary. And if it wasn't for those decisions that those guys didn't see back in the day, they probably think they're lucky stars that all happened now, because look how huge that the band is.
Yeah.
Just as a band, Kiss is just Kiss. It's not the 4 guys. Each guys have their own identity and definitely contributed, but Kiss is a machine, and it took the help and advice of those that knew better back then, I think, to keep them in the game, because otherwise they might have faded, before we got to the 80s,
Yeah, and people, people are always, criticizing them for how over merchandise they are, but I dare anybody that if you could not have a band and merchandise yourself like that, make all that kind of money, who the hell wouldn't do it,
My buddy Craig Gass, you've heard of Craig, he does a great Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley impersonation. And, he always does, they have Kiss coffins and Kiss this and Kiss that. And, it is pretty, I gotta tell you, it's pretty funny. It is a funny thing. But, it's the American way, man. And if you could sell, I understand, I understand, okay, dude, stop selling everything to everybody or to your diehard fans. You're just fleecing them. I do get that aspect, but, listen, you put some stuff out there, people don't want to buy it, they won't buy it. If one guy feels compelled to buy everything Kiss puts out, well, that's kind of on him. And maybe that makes him happy. That's cool.
I'm with you. A couple of years ago, I can't remember the name of the book, but they put out, it was a self-published thing that the band put out. Like a big photo book, and it's like almost 3,000 or 4,000. Yeah, I as a diehard Kiss fan, I'd love to have that, but I'm not crazy enough. First of all, if I'm going to spend $4,000 on anything, it's definitely not going to be a book. And I say to the guy that's crazy enough to do it, okay, well, if he's crazy enough to do it, that's on him.
Yeah, right. And if he's got the dough to do it, and he wants to do it, then
And see, this is the thing about, talking to you, I can hear that you're as much a Kiss fan as I am, and that's the thing is, Kiss is so much more than a rock band. You made that point very well. It's almost become like a lifestyle. The circus is coming down. It's almost like a religion. The best point I could make on this is like you take a guy like Dimebag Darrell, from Pantera, major Kiss fan, and when he died. Those guys sent the family a Kiss coffin. They didn't charge. It was something they did for free. And so think of that.
I was going to say, how much did Gene charge them?
No, but from what I understand, it was a free thing they did for the family. But and so kind of think about that. Being a diehard Kiss fan, and you're buried in a Kiss casket. How? And then to top it off, the band donates the casket to the family. How cool is that?
Yeah, right. I mean, if you're going to be a big fan of any other band in the world, you're not getting a casket for the band. So it is. And listen, obviously, Dimebag would have. I mean, he loves knowing he's in a Kiss casket. I mean, how cool is that? You know, it is special. And you know, if there's not a market for stuff like that, then there's not. You know, but hey, put it out there. You know, there's two sides to look at it, but they've obviously. Just become so huge. I mean, they are like superheroes, you know, and everybody wants to dress up like Kiss. I don't know if you saw that movie or the documentary called The Wolf Pack. It's the 6-7 kids and. You know,
I saw something about that on 60 Minutes the other day, but I haven't actually seen the documentary.
Yeah, so you know, essentially, and you know, I'll get to the Kiss tie-in, but essentially, you know, the family, the dad had all these kids.
Locked up.
They lived in this apartment in Manhattan, and basically wouldn't let them out to the outside world. So they got to watch movies, and they reenacted everything. Well, there's a scene of them, a photo, and there's the 6 brothers and the 1 daughter.
Wow.
And they're all dressed like Kiss. They're all wearing Kiss makeup. And you go, wow, these are people that were secluded. This guy from Peru took his wife from the Midwest. And all these kids, and literally he had the only key to the house and would not let his kids would not be able to go out. And when they did, it was only for small sorts of time. It was supervised. It was like 1 or 2 kids at a time. It was very, very, it's a really weird, I didn't see the documentary, but the thing on 2020 was great, and it makes me want to see the doc now. But anyway, you sit there, and so here are these kids that are basically living, they don't understand what's in the outside world. There's one photo where they could dress like anything. I don't even know if it was Halloween or if it was just what the occasion was. They're all dressed like Kiss. Everybody was different. You know, there was a Paul Stanley, there's Peter, there's an Ace. And you sit there and go, wow, okay, here's this band that is not, these brothers that are not familiar with anything in the outside world, but they know Kiss. Yeah,
and it's so much to a point,
That's pretty huge.
So much to the point, like, I seen the same thing on the 2020 that you did the other night, and it's interesting that these kids, like, the one thing that bonded them was their love of movies, and they'd watch movies, and they'd even they'd film their own. They'd reenact them like Pulp Fiction. They'd get dressed up like John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, and they'd recite word for word. And it was just amazing, like you said, that they've locked up for all these years, like almost held prisoner in their own home. But then the one thing that bonded them was their love of movies, and it just shows Again, just not to get off topic, but it's just an amazing thing, when you see something like that, it's like, man, I thought I had it bad,
Well, and the other thing is, like, in this day and age, like, how does that happen? How is that allowed to happen? It's weird, and, and I've seen, I saw the 2020 thing, and I gotta tell you, those kids are really smart kids. I mean, they're gonna go out and do some great things. I think they already are doing some great things.
Oh, yeah.
Big things. But, I mean, they're not dumb kids at all.
Oh, no. And that's what's amazing, kids, for being locked up all those years, that you think that they would really be naive, but they seem to have come, since they've been allowed to go outside, they seem to have come quite far.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's a trippy. I actually look forward to seeing that documentary. But, like I said, the fact that they've been closed off from the whole world, and somehow, somewhere, they got a hold of Kiss, and that's what they wanted to be. And that just tells you the magnitude of that band to reach someone that has no access to the outside world, minus movies. I wonder if they saw Phantom of the Park. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That
would be great.
Now let me ask you, as a Kiss fan, what did you think about that movie? Because that's another thing that I've seen it several times over the years, and it is kind of campy now, but I think, when you consider it was filmed back in 1978 for what it was a pretty cool thing, It's still something I love to check out from time to time. And even, they even recently did like a Scooby-Doo movie. Did you have a chance to catch that?
Yeah. So I think it's great. I mean, it's funny, like, because, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I know some or all. Like, doesn't Ace not really have, technically, not one speaking line on there, but he had to overdub? Somebody had to overdub his voice.
Yeah, well, what I understand on the Kiss Meets the Phantom, Peter would not show up to do something, so they had like they had somebody else come in and do his voice. That's actually not Peter's voice, and then they actually had a black guy stand in for as Ace's stunt doubles on some of the days. I guess he didn't show up, which is kind of funny. Yeah.
All right, so I got those facts mixed up, but yeah, that's awesome. I mean, my band back in the day in the Midwest made a home video, not like a movie like that, but, and I go back and I laugh at that, and it's fun. And I can tell you, I mean, obviously somebody was marketing that band, realized how big they were, and, maybe it didn't translate quite the way they wanted it to, because it is kind of silly, but it's great. It's a classic. I mean, it's kind of fun popping some popcorn and cracking a Rolling Rock and watching, Family Park.
Yeah, I mean, even back then they were aware of the different characters, and it was so much more than just a make. I mean, I heard initially they got the idea from seeing Alice Cooper, and kind of Paul Stanley's thought was, instead of having just one guy in the band get made up, let's have all four guys in the band get made up, and that's kind of where they got the idea. And I'm sure you've heard the same stories over years where when the band was first being put together, everybody loved the sound of the band, but they were kind of like, do you have to wear that makeup? But that's what ended up really, being their trademark.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm actually, when they did the, Look It Up album, what was that, 84?
83, I think, yeah.
83, yeah. So when they essentially took off the makeup, it was like, wow, I can't believe. I mean, because you didn't know them otherwise.
Well, you make a very good point there. Because back in the day, I mean, and they would never be able to get away with this today. But back in the day, their security was so tight that if anybody would even try to snatch their pictures, the film would be taken away. I mean, they put a napkin up, in front of their face, and it's just amazing that back in the day, nobody even knew what they looked like. But then when they did the Lick It Up album and they took their makeup off, I seen Gene on MTV for the first time. I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of okay. That's Gene Simmons. That's Paul Stanley. But I thought, wow, that's what they look like,
But the thing was, there was this mystique, especially without the social media.
Yeah.
And, I mean, everybody's got. I mean, I can sit there and send a tweet to Steven Tyler right now if I wanted to. Whether he sees it or not. But people are much more available, and so to me, it kind of takes the excitement out of it. So when they took off the makeup, it was such a, oh my God, it was weird. Like the superheroes are,
or dead.
He's now Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Wow, so it was really, really weird. But I got to tell you, I don't know if they kind of slipped down and came back up. But I mean, obviously that band is known for
the makeup. That's why they put it back on.
Really, it's just part of the deal. It's kind of like, I'm gonna give you a Paul Stanleyism right now. It's kind of like getting the cake without the frosting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? The frosting doesn't make the cake, but
that's
without frosting.
Well, let's be honest. That's why they put the makeup back on in '96. I mean, ever since then, no matter who's in the band, they've been making a lot more money. The concerts sell out, and you made the point, which, like you, Troy, I'm both a Motley Crue and a Kiss fan. I mean, both bands have a lot in common. But I got to ask you, did you get a chance to see a few years back when both bands toured together? I mean, that was one killer show, but I got a chance to go see.
I did not. I was actually on the road. I did not, but that would have been, like a childhood dream, because those, like I said, those are the bands that I saw the most of.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in high school, every time kids came to town, I would go see them play.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of funny. We're talking about the makeup and no makeup. Is that the one year I saw them, they played the Hammock Civic Auditorium. And that was the year that they had no makeup on.
Yeah.
The other year they played like Rosemont Horizon. So we're talking, 5,000 seats versus 17,000 seats.
Wow.
So they really did take a dip in their market share. So they weren't playing Chicago at that point. They were playing Hammond, which is where I was born.
Wow.
Outside of Chicago, it's a stone's throw. But when you play the Rosemont Horizon, you're an arena act. When you're playing the Hammond Civic Auditorium, you're not. You're on the way down, So,
and you've been quite successful in your own career, Troy. I mean, I know at one time you're playing in White Lion, Pretty Boy Floyd. You've been playing the last several years with Gilby Clarke. I think you play from time to time with the Enough's Enough these days. Have you ever had a chance to run into any of the Kiss guys throughout your own touring?
Not the classic, man. I got to tell you, I've never had a brush with anybody in Kiss, except for the new guys. I know Tommy Thayer. I mean, I know him a little bit.
Yeah.
I've met him, and Eric Singer I know quite well. but I've never, the original four. I've got a buddy of mine, actually, I was going to suggest you talk to him, Matt Starr.
Okay.
Who plays drums for Ace. Matt's a huge Kiss fan. He's a Kiss historian, as we might call it. He's a big fan. He loves all that stuff, and he played with Ace, and I know that was such an important thing for him.
Okay. I've heard of him, and I know he's also kind of doing double duty these days with Mr. Big since Pat Torpe's not able to tour.
Yeah, Matt's a fantastic drummer. I was actually Matt's drummer when we had a band called Bassmaster. Some years ago. Matt was playing guitar, and Matt's one of those guys. He's like Dave Grohl. He does everything, and he's good at everything. He's a great drummer, great guitar player, sings great. He's just he's just one of those good, well-rounded guys. And when he had asked me to be his drummer, and Matt's a fantastic drummer, I was a little bit honored there, going, wow, all right, this guy wants me to be his drummer, and he's a great drummer. So, but yeah, he's a huge Kiss fan, obviously, and he's probably got some great Ace stories,
Yeah,
I've never, fortunately, listen, let me correct that. I was playing in Bang Tango, and we played in Las Vegas at the Santa Fe station at Club Chrome, playing with Bang Tango, and Ace Frehley showed up to the show. And I have a photo of myself and Ace Frehley. Ace came and saw the Bang Tango show, and this was back in, 2009.
Yeah.
That's like the rest with the original Kiss.
Oh, wow. I was actually thinking that you might have met Ace before because I remember in the early 2000s when they VH1 had like an award show there, and Gilby was part of a tribute band that he did with Ace. I was wondering if you got to be part of that.
I did not. This was before playing with Gilby.
Oh, okay.
I started playing Gilby. This would be, I'm going to say probably 2010, 2011, because we're moving on our 6th Sturgis maybe this year, or 5th one. So I started playing with Gilby later in the.
Okay, and I got to tell people, I've seen you perform a couple times when I went to see Gilby, as part of his band, and you're such a powerhouse, really flashy drummer. So I was kind of curious, who were some of the drummers that really influenced you to do what you're doing these days?
I grew up in Chicago, playing the Chicago scene. Just born and raised in Indiana, and obviously. Being 30 minutes from the city of Chicago, the place you want to play is in the city. That's where everything's happening, So I grew up watching guys like Vic Fox, play. It was the drummer for Enough Enough. He went to play for Vince Neil and the Veronicas, and so I grew up watching that guy.
Well, that how odd is that one of the guys that really influenced you, you're kind of sitting in the drum stool that he once sat in, so to speak.
It's pretty rad, because I love that band. I mean, that band, that was an 80s band, and that's kind of the era I grew up in, and they were kind of our local heroes, and they, got on MTV and everything, and broke out of Chicago, so to speak. So they were kind of my cheap trick,
Yeah.
They, they had some popularity, and I loved Chip and Donnie, and so White Lion took out Enough's Enough in 2005, and it was with Chip and John Monaco, and I've loved Chip. I've respected him just as a musician. I've been knowing him for so long that, to share a bus with him and go out there and spend 5 weeks with him. And, Enough's Enough is, I'm a fan, and I was kind of geeking out. Like, oh my God, I love this band. And now, for Chip to have a personal relationship with me and to go, hey, bro, I want you to play these shows, I want you out there, and, you bring the fire and the chicks to you, all the nice things he says. It makes me excited to sit back and play those songs.
So are you like
play them like Vicky Fox. I try to play them like Vicky Fox plays them.
So are you now a permanent member in that band? Or are you kind of on contract? What's your status with them?
Well, here's the thing. Chip's got a guy that's out of Chicago, Eric Donner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you look up his dad, actually got quite a history, old school history. And Eric is a great drummer, sings great, and he was out with those guys in 2005. And I don't think he can do as much touring, like lengthy touring, where we're out for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. So when those situations arise, Chip calls me. But when they have their, their Chicago dates, or they have a couple weekend dates or whatever, Eric will typically do them. So it makes more sense, and I get it. It's just one of those bands where it's not about the drummer.
Yeah.
As long as Chip and maybe Donnie, will decide to come back.
Yeah, that would.
Happy birthday, Donnie, by the way. I think it's his birthday as we're talking about this.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, guys, we're just flying the flag for the band. And, and there's still fans of that band out there. But yeah, I'll probably do. We're talking a summer tour this year.
Cool.
Possibly with Stephen Pearcy and the Bullet Boys, and that's in the works.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
And, so if that gets put together, then we'll all.
In fact, last time I think I seen you play with Gilby, I think was at the Anaheim House of Blues. I think you guys were doing a show, if memory serves me, with Quiet Riot and the Bullet Boys.
And that's definitely possible. That's definitely possible. Yeah.
And that's just that was you guys were really really on, and I love a lot of Gilby's solo music. I mean, I wish that he could get out there and play more. Now I did read on your website that he's in the studio working on some new recordings. Will you be part of that?
Yeah, I've actually tracked quite a few songs with Gilby, and he's got some other guys. I think he's got Matt Starr, Steve Perkins.
Different guys on different tracks.
I know he's doing some new material. I think I've retracked some of the old classics, like Tijuana Jail, Cure Me, or Kill Me.
Cool.
So he's just trying to, he's trying to finish this up, and in between his other projects and his solo band getting booked, it's been very difficult, and he's just like, listen, I need to take this time off to get this done. And his studio, where he does everything, is actually a functioning studio, and he also books other artists. So
cool. He's always busy.
Engineering and producing and mixing. I mean, he's really great at what he does. He's got a good ear for stuff, and so I know he's busy. So in between just trying to get this album done, I know he's doing a bunch of other things. But yeah, we're ready to get out there.
That's great to hear.
I know he's ready. I know he's ready to put out a new album, just to let people know, hey, I'm still alive and I'm still writing songs,
Yeah, because, actually, as much as I loved it when Gilby was with Guns N' Roses, I mean, I really do think, the guy's kind of a triple threat. I mean, he's a great songwriter, a great singer, guitar player, and I'd really much rather see him kind of doing his own thing, because, Guns N' Roses, he's got a... you got Axl Rose to kind of compete with, so I think it's great that he's out there doing his own thing these days.
Yeah, here's the thing. Gilby has been Gilby Clark
for years.
Before GNR.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's Gilby Clark after GNR. And obviously that put him under, a little bit more of a microscope and let people know that, hey, there's a guy called Gilby Clark out there. And, he's been doing what he's been doing all his life.
I mean, even before GNR...
That just gave him an avenue to do it in front of a bigger crowd, and then to take that and carry on beyond them. You know what I mean? I think Gilby Clark defines Gilby Clark. GNR does not define Gilby Clark.
Oh no, I mean, even I know it was nowhere on the same level, but I mean, years ago, before anybody really knew who Gilby was, he had this great band that it's kind of a pop rock thing called Candy, but he had this guy Jonathan Daniel that has been one of his songwriting partners, but they were part of his band, and I understand they did some shows with Rick Springfield. So Gilby's been doing, like you said, for years before even anybody knew who he was.
Yeah, and if you think about what he's done,
since
GNR, I mean, he's done Nancy Sinatra.
Yeah.
He's done Heart. He's done the MC5. He's definitely not pigeonholed in what he does.
I gotta say,
a versatile guitar player.
I gotta say that version of Heart that him and Mike Inez were part of. I mean, I thought it was one of the best lineups that band ever had.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a bucket list on my bucket list to go see Heart, and I never saw them. I haven't seen them yet, but I'm gonna go see them. But yeah, I wasn't. This is just before Gilby and I
hooked up,
kind of became known to each other. But yeah, I've seen some video of it, and it's great, man. It's it added a little bit of rock and roll to that band, because a rock and roll band, you know.
Oh yeah, and I was curious, getting back to Kiss for a minute. How big of an influence was Peter Criss on you, as far as his drumming style?
I gotta say, just a little bit. I mean, my two favorite drummers would be Vic Fox and Bunny Carlos.
Oh, okay. Wow.
With that being said, Bunny Carlos and Peter Criss have kind of a similar, when you listen to some of the Kiss albums, some of the fills are not fills I would normally think of doing, but they work and they're magical. And so, Peter Criss kind of comes off as I don't know, for lack of a better term, kind of a jazzy, adding a lot of fills. And, I'm more of a rock drummer, a little bit more 4/4, more of a Vic Fox, Tommy Lee. But I love the Bunny Carlos aspect of what he does with Cheap Trick. I love what Peter Criss does, because you sit there and you hear a fill and you go, oh my God, I never would have played that fill.
Yeah, well, see, Peter Criss, I mean, he's not a technically precise player, and so a lot of times people don't really cite him as a huge, influence. I mean, a lot of people even dare say, maybe the guy's a better singer than he is a drummer. I don't know, but those are things I've heard over the years. People kind of.
Yeah, but it's not. I know you're not saying this, but it's not about that. It's about the magic that those four guys had together to create something. Listen, without those four guys creating what they created, Kiss wouldn't be around today. It wouldn't matter if they got a better drummer, which, Eric Singer is probably technically a better drummer. But, listen, man, Ace's solos, sometimes they're, I don't know, for lack of a better term, they're not precise like a Joe Satriani. They're sloppy and bluesy. They've done a Les Paul that's on fire. That's rock and roll, man. That's Kiss. It's those four guys, and there's no other guys you can put in that room that created that together to create what we have today 40 years later, that being Destroyer. You know what I mean? It's simple as that, and it's just, you can't take that away from anybody.
Yeah.
There's better drummers than Peter Criss. Put him in Kiss, see how that works out. It's gonna suck. You know what I mean? Peter Criss is the guy. You hear how Eric Singer plays. Eric is definitely a more pronounced, technically proficient drummer, but he plays the Peter Criss fills. He just plays them the way Eric Singer plays them, but he plays those fills like Peter Criss, and there's a reason why. That's the way the songs are written. That's the magic that they have. So and just to wrap this up a little. Now, you were mentioning that you're also a huge Bunny Carlos fan. Interesting enough, Bunny too, like a lot like Peter. He was not one of the pinup guys in Cheap Tricks based on his look, but he's a great drummer. Like you said, but another one all too often doesn't get the credit he deserves. I got to ask, what do you think about Cheap Trick without Bunny Carlos these days? Well, I got to tell you, it's a little bit of love-hate because, I never, I don't know what the true story is. Why Bunny is not in the band, but I do like the fact that, Rick's son is in the band, and I got to tell you, he does a great job, and he's very humble, and, it's in the family. I mean, that kid grew up on Cheap Trick, obviously. It's in his bloodstream. And the fact that he pulls off the Bunny Carlos stuff is great. And, it seems like his position's a little bit more solidified as, he's on the cover of the new album.
I was going to ask you, and they have a new album coming out this Friday. Will you be checking it out, being the Cheap Trick fan that you are?
Absolutely. Dude, I'm a huge Cheap Trick fan, so I can't wait until it comes out. It's going to be one of the few albums I actually go out and buy. I don't buy albums anymore. I listen to Howard Stern and this, that, and the other. I love the Winery Dogs. I went out and picked that up. But there's not a lot of bands that inspire me. All the old stuff, I still love the old stuff, which I already own.
And it's funny you bring up Howard Stern because he was a huge supporter of Enough's Enough before anybody else knew who they were. And I got to ask you, before we wrap this up, you were talking earlier about that you would a gig with the band Kiss My Ass, which is a great Kiss tribute band with Scotty Griffin and some other guys. What was it like for you? Go back to when you were performing that show. Go from being a Kiss fan up on stage in the Peter makeup, and you're playing these songs that you grew up on. I mean, that must have been a great feeling.
Well, it was cool, and like I said, it took me back to when I was 12, when my friends from high school, and we were playing in front of our other friends from the school in my garage, with the lights on the PA, and it took me back to that moment, and that was the start of what I'm doing today. And so to be able to go back in time, you know, to go, wow, man, I'm 12 again. I'm in my garage right now, and I'm playing with my best friend, and we're playing Kiss. That was a huge thing, and I'll never forget that, because I started off playing Kiss songs.
Uh-huh.
That's what you did, you know, and I'm here 40 years later, you know, after Destroyer, still playing Kiss songs in my head, you know, and you know, every once in a while, I'm actually doing a jam April 2nd, which may have passed by the time this comes out, but with Brent Muscat from
Faster Pussycat. Wow.
And on the list is Rock and Roll All Night, and I'm like, I'm not sure what songs I'm gonna do yet. I think I'm gonna pick that song.
and when you did the Kiss, when you did the Kiss My Ass gig, I was curious, how long did it take you to get your makeup on?
Well, you know, fortunately, Danny, who's Star Child, he did it, and he's actually an artist in his own right. He draws great pictures and everything. He did it for me, and it probably took about maybe 45 minutes. You know, half hour, 45 minutes. And that's with him doing it, you know, and as I understand, those guys in Kiss, they all do their own makeup, you know, every show, which is still, after all these years, that's amazing, you know, that they do that. It's quite an undertaking, I gotta tell you.
Wow.
And I left it on. When I got home after the gig, when we did have a good time that night, it was really a lot of fun, I didn't take it off. I didn't take it off till the next day.
Wow.
So I woke up, it wasn't in as great shape as it was when it was done, but I left it on because I was like, dude, I'm going to be Peter Criss for like another 12 hours if I can, you know.
Wow. And two more questions to wrap this up. Now, in regards to Destroyer, like, I don't know if you know this, it's another little trivia here, bit of trivia here for you. God of Thunder, like you were talking earlier, a lot of this Destroyer album had to do with the band's, you know, kind of identity, the character. And interestingly enough, the song God of Thunder, I don't know if you know this, was originally written by Paul Stanley's the writer on the song. And when they went in to record the tune, Bob Ezrin was kind of like, it seemed like more of a Gene song. I think he should sing it. And Paul was kind of against it. But if you want to really check this out, if you get the Kiss box set they released a couple years ago, there's an actual demo version with Paul doing the lead vocal.
I've never heard that. I would actually like to hear that, actually.
Yeah. You could probably go online even on YouTube and check it out, but
you can find some out there, yeah.
But it's just it's another little known fact. And then the other thing I was gonna ask you, there's gonna be an Ace Frehley covers album coming out in a couple of weeks. Any chance you'll be getting that?
I heard it's coming out, and I think Paul actually plays on it, which is actually pretty cool.
Actually, him and Ace kind of sing on this free song. I think it's called Fire and Water.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Of course, I'll check it out. Definitely check it out.
And then the very last,
there's another. I did a tribute, the Millennium tribute to Kiss, actually some years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was myself. We recorded this at Paul Shortina's studio. We did Black Diamond.
Oh, who else appeared on the track with you? I've heard about that CD.
Oh my gosh! You know what? Ask me another question. I'll look it up real quick because I don't remember. I've done so many of those.
Okay, you know what? I can look it up later because I'm aware of the CD you're talking about, so that's all right. But the very last thing I wanted to ask you is a couple years ago. Actually, we're talking. This is 40 years after Destroyer was released, but 5 years ago, Bob Ezrin put out on the 35th anniversary. He re-released Destroyer and called it Destroyer Resurrected, and they actually featured the original artwork, which was not the blue cover but this black cover of it. And initially the record label was against releasing because they thought it looked so violent. Did you get a chance to check that out?
I haven't seen,
Okay, well,
I haven't seen that cover.
Oh, well, I'll see if later I can send you. I'll find a photo online just to send you because it's a real cool looking cover, and the only really difference, it's kind of remastered, and so it's a little more. The drums are a little more bombastic and loud. But once again, Troy, I really enjoyed talking to you. So I'd like to thank you so much for being part of Destroyer40. And anytime you want to, you have anything to promote, please let me know, and I'll be glad to spread the word for you.
Awesome, Jason. Always good to talk to you, and thanks for including in this momentous event. I mean, actually kind of going back and revisiting all these Kiss memories, which I haven't done in a long time.
Well, that's the one thing about being a Kiss fan. I mean, there's no shortage of topics, and anybody who's a Kiss fan knows that you could talk about Kiss for hours. And that's why you initially came to my mind, because I remember last time I talked to you, you mentioned that you were, a bit of a Kiss fan. And then I got to ask, because I know you once played with Pretty Boy Floyd. Have you had a chance to check out their Kiss tribute CD they just put out?
I was actually supposed to play drums on that, and I'm not sure what happened, but I've only heard a couple of tracks on it, so I don't know. I mean, there's rumors that they used some karaoke tracks or something.
Well, I don't know if they did, but I mean, if you...
I don't know. I've heard some weird shit about that album.
Well, I gotta say, to give the guys credit, it came out. I mean, as a Kiss fan myself, I think for what it is, it's a pretty decent tribute. Now, now they got the original guys on the cover, but if you look at the credits, Christy plays most of the instruments, and then Steve does the singing. Yeah. So. I haven't really checked it out a little bit. I like Steve Summers to sing Pretty Boy Floyd songs pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, man. Hey, listen, it's great talking to you. I can always be found on Facebook if you just look.
Okay, well, just to let you know, Troy, this will be going up probably sometime in April. As soon as I got a confirmation date of exactly when all the interviews are done and they'll be going up, I'll be sure to let you know. But thanks so much again for being part of Destroyer40, and I'll be talking to you again down the line. So take care of yourself.
All right, hey, you too, Jason. Thanks again so much.
Okay, bye-bye.